Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and hello everyone. My name is Fajar Wahyudi, and today I will explain about sentences processing. Two-stage model of phrasing in psycholinguistics propose that sentence processing occurs in two stages. A first stage that involves rapidly construction and syntax structure for the sentence, and a second sentence that involves assigning meaning to the sentence. The first stage of phrasing involves identifying the basic synthetic structure of the sentence, such as constitute phrase and their hierarchical relationship, and this stage is often referred as the syntactic phrasing stage. The second stage involves integrating and syntactic structure with the semantic information of the sentence to arrive at a full interpretation of the sentence. Two-stage model phrasing have been supported by a variety of experimental findings, such as the garden path effect, where reader initially praise the sentence in an incorrect manner before adjusting their parsing to arrive at the correct interpretations. These models have been used to explain how people process ambiguous sentences, such as those with a multiple plausible meaning. Next is constraint-based model of appraising in psycholinguistics. Propose that sentence processing involve simultaneous considering both syntax and semantic constraint to arrive at the full interpretations of the sentence. In a constraint-based model, syntactic and semantic informations are integrated together in a process called constraint satisfactions. The model takes into account all of the possible interpretations of a sentence and assign a probability to each interpretation based on how well it satisfies the various constraints imposed by synthetic and semantic information. Example, if a sentence has noun phrase that code fiction as the subject or object of a verb, the constraint-based model will take into account both the syntactic and semantic constraint into the sentence to determine the correct interpretations. The model might assign a higher probability to interpretation that is more consistent with the broader context of a sentence. Constraints-based models have been used to explain a variety of a closure in a sentence processing, which states that people tend to interpret the new word as sentence a part of a phrase or clause. Constraint-based models have also been used to explain how people process ambiguous sentences, such as those with a multiple possible meaning. The argument structure hypothesis is a theory in a psycholinguistics that proposes that sentence comprehension is based on the identification of argument structure of sentences. Argument structure refers to the number and type of argument that have verb required to form a grammatical sentence. According to the argument structure hypothesis, sentence comprehension involves two stages. In the first stage, the argument structure of the verb identify. And the second stage, the meaning of a sentence is constructed based on the argument structure. For example, in the sentence, the boy kicked all the ball. The verb kick required two arguments, a subject or the boy, and an object, the ball. The argument structure hypothesis proposes that the parser first identifies the argument structure of the verb kick, and then uses this information to assign the role of a subject and object to appropriate word in the sentence. The argument structure hypothesis has been supported by a variety of experimental findings, such as studies that have shown that processing of a verb and their argument influenced by their argument structure. While phrasing theory has been helpful in explaining how people understand language, they also have some limitation and have faced criticisms. One limitation is that phrasing models tend to simplify the complex and dynamic nature of a language comprehension. For example, they often assume that processing occurs in a linear, serial manner, whereas real language processing is influenced by many factors, including context, knowledge, and expectation. Critics have also pointed out that phrasing models often fail to account for the role probabilistic information in language processing. Probabilistic models, such as Bayes models, have been proposed as an alternative to phrasing models, as they can account the uncertain and probabilistic nature of the language input. Finally, some research have proposed hybrid models that combine element of pricing, probabilistic, and connectionist model to better account for a complex nature of language comprehensions. Overall, while pricing theories have been useful in explaining how people understand language, they have limitation and may need to be combined with other approaches to provide a more complete understanding of language processing. Parsing long distance dependency refers to the ability of a language user to correctly interpret sentences that involve grammatical relationship between words that are for a part in a sentence. Long distance dependencies can involve a variety of syntax relationships such as relative clauses, WH question, and embedded clauses. Pricing long distance dependencies is a challenging because it is require language user to hold the initial structure of the sentence in memory while processing information that appears much later in the sentence. This requires the integration of information across multiple parts of a sentence and ability to inhibit potential misinterpretation or garden path effect. I think that's all from me. Thank you for attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.